welcome to today's live. Happy Monday. Bon lundi. We're gonna obviously wait a couple seconds before we get started. Let some people come on. Hello, bonjour, bonsoir, hola, since today we're gonna be joined by Maria Estrada from Nativa. She's coming live from us all the way from Uruguay, and our today's conversation is going to be focused on sustainability, ethical sourcing, and all things merino wool. Don't forget, we're going to be able to answer any questions you have after we have our conversation towards the end of the live. So don't hesitate to ask them throughout. And remember, this live will be available in our Instagram television as well as on YouTube in the coming days. So without further ado, Maria, as soon as Instagram allows the connection to go through. So we're just waiting for that, and as soon as it works, hello!
Hi, Vince.
Or how should I say hola since you're in Uruguay? I love the scarf. You look great. She's wearing in your Amédée blue signature, currently available on our eShop.
Of course.
So, how are things in Uruguay?
Good, great, actually. I mean, despite everything, it's been an interesting time, but I can't complain. All good.
It's so great to hear that things are good, especially since, the world is not in the best space at the moment. But let's go right into what we were talking about today. And let's start simply by telling our audience exactly what is Nativa.
Of course. Well, Nativa is a traceable and sustainable wool label. So we are a brand that was created by Chercheurs, or our division, which is called Chercheurs Luxury Materials, has been in this business for many, many years. So there's a heritage aspect, which is very important. We've been in the sourcing and the combing area of the wool business. And we decided to create this traceable and sustainable wool brand as a response to what's happening in the world in terms of consumers wanting to know more about where their products come from. So joining with that heritage aspect, Nativa is born as a solution to end brands. We've been in contact and selling to spinners and weavers for many, many years, and now as a solution to brands, we created this merino wool brand and other wool brand.
Okay, so I know at the core of Nativa is sustainability. So can you tell our audience about what exactly makes everything? What is at the core of focusing on sustainability within Nativa?
Yes, of course. So sustainability, I would say, is what Nativa means in every sense of the word. It's created, as I was saying before, as a solution to brands, but what that means in terms of sustainability is that we can give the brands transparency and traceability in their supply chain. So this is done, I would say, mainly through two main aspects. The blockchain, we have blockchain incorporated, so it's nature plus technology. And also the fact that we offer a certification. It's a private protocol, but it's certified by an independent company. And this means that at farm level, we look and we place high standards in terms of animal welfare, land management, corporate social responsibility. So that's all within the sustainability scope. And then at the rest of the supply chain, we also look at in the environment aspect, the corporate social responsibility as well. So it means that this certification process places these high standards so that in every step of the supply chain, there is, we take care, basically it's taking care of the people, taking care of the animals, taking care of the environment in every step of the supply chain.
That's amazing. And that level of transparency is so rare to come by. So it's really amazing to be able to find that. And that's obviously what's topical, what the average person who goes to the Nativa website sees and learns about. So to get more in depth, what's going on behind the scenes? Who's who? What's what don't we see?
Of course. Well, we are a global team and with local teams in every part of the world. As I was saying before, so we source the wool from different parts of the world, such as, Argentina, Uruguay, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. So this comes, the wool comes from different parts of the world. I mentioned merino wool, but it's other wools as well. And then there's the next step of the supply chain, which is the combing process. So what we do, and this is something that is done by chercheurs, by Nativa, within Nativa, it's the wool after it comes from the farms. It goes into the combing mills, which there's the washing and then the combing of the wool. And in fact, I have something to show you here, which you can
show me what.
This
Ooh,
is the wool sliver, beautiful, really soft wool. And that's something that we, it's part of our business. So we do the sourcing and then the combing of the wool. This then goes to the spinners and the weavers and what you then see up until, for instance, an Amédée product. So in terms of behind the scenes, there's our farmers, of course. We work with our farmers. We have to be very close to our farmers since we're at the very beginning of the supply chain. There's the people who work in those combing mills. We have combing mills in different parts of the world. And in terms of our teams, the fact that we're in different parts of the world means that we can be close to our partners. So as an example, we have our main office in Biella, Italy. So that's close to, and they've been there for many, many years. So close to spinners and weavers, to our traditional, clients and partners. We have offices in New Zealand, here in Uruguay. We have farms here in Uruguay. We have farms in Argentina. We have a team both in Uruguay and Argentina. So I would say that everywhere in the world where we need to have a presence, whether it's because of our combing mills, because of the farms, or on the commercial side, we have a team or a representative there. So that's kind of the who's who. We're not a big team, but we feel that that sort of local aspect is really important, and the global aspect as well. It lets us be in that supply chain and general aspect from, for instance, in New York. We have someone in New York, so she can be in contact with the brands. So it's that closeness in every step of the supply chain, which is a very integral part of Nativa. And as I was saying before, the people, the corporate social responsibility aspect is incredibly important for us. Yeah.
So it's that perfect mix of that global mindset. So, and for people who watched last week with Tommaso, who's based in Biella, that talks about that spinning process and that, that second half of the production line. And for the people who have no idea what any of this means, or it's not super technical for the layman, essentially, and please correct me if I'm wrong, we start with the sheep.
Yes.
We then they're then shorn. They go through that combing process that you just talked about, and then it goes over to Italy. Then that's when it becomes that textile. And then it gets printed, whether it's screen printing or digital printing, and becomes the scarf that you're wearing around your shoulders and I have around my neck. So in the most simple way, that's what that process looks like.
Absolutely. It can be Italy, it could be other parts of the world. But yes, that's a simple way of showing it. And again, as we were talking about traceability, the fact that we have the blockchain and the certification means that we know that journey of the wool from farm up until the consumer.
Which is super important, especially in the 21st century, especially with the way the market is shifting. On top of that, though, that means that we also want to focus on the quality control and ensuring that there's ethical manufacturing. So can you talk more about that, the ethical manufacturing, animal welfare, et cetera?
Yes, of course. So in terms of what we do in our own combing mills and the ethical manufacturing, there's what's mentioned in the protocol, as I was saying before, in terms of the way, that wool is treated after it comes out of the farms. But then, of course, each mill will have its own ethical requirements. So, whether it's Ecotech certified and or ISO, I mean, they have different quality controls so that the standards are very high. So ethical manufacturing is extremely important. And as I was saying before, the fact that we remain involved in the rest of the supply chain means that we know what happens after, and that certification process allows us to choose ethical partners and partners that have sustainability in mind as well.
Okay. So now that that's covered, let's talk about what I think a lot of people love to look at, and I know I go through all the Nativa photos for our Amédée social. Let's talk about the sheep.
Yes.
Our favorite thing. So, can you tell us what is so special about merino sheep?
Yes, of course. I do like that question. Because when I see, for instance, the Amédée Instagram, and I see all these pictures of sheep, and it's, I suppose I grew up with sheep very close by. I mean, I live in the city. I live in Montevideo, and I lived in many countries. But when I was growing up, I was in Uruguay, and I used to go to my grandfather's farm every chance that I had with my family, and sheep were just there. You know, for us it was completely normal, and horses and different farm animals. And so now when I see this really big interest for sheep as part of my work, it's fascinating. And of course that makes sense because it is, it's nature, it's where our products come from. It's the people will know not only the sheep but also the people that work alongside the sheep. And the fact is that as I was saying before, animal welfare is very important for us. So it means that wherever we source the wool, we need to know that those sheep are well taken care of. So it's not just about how they live, but also it's about the shearing process. So it's like getting your hair cut, sheep need to be short. I know a few days ago you posted this really funny picture of this, sheep with lots of wool.
Shrek the
Um,
sheep.
Shrek the Sheep, yes, and of course that that's part of the process. But we ensure stress-free shearing as part of Nativa. We ensure that they have that they're not hurt in any way, and that's part of this process. Then in terms of the again, because we sort.
Oh, did we freeze? Oh, did we did we freeze? Ooh, we were having such a great conversation. Let's see. Oh, oh, you're
Am
back.
I there?
You're there.
Good.
Okay. Last
We were
thing we
hoping
said.
that this would not happen.
We
So
were
hopefully it
hoping.
won't
We were
happen
hoping
again.
and praying, but hopefully it doesn't happen again. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Shrek the Sheep and his big fluffy fur. So let's go right from there.
Exactly. So yeah. So just to say that everything that happens in terms of the farms and the sheep is part of that animal welfare aspect, and the fact that wherever we source the wool from, we want this to be, it's an important part of what we do and of who Nativa is.
Can you explain more? So I know non-mulesing
Mm-hmm.
is a key element for our sheep in the farms where we work with. But I'll be honest, I don't know what at first I didn't know what non-mulesing was, and it took me a while to kind of wrap my head around what it is. So for the basic person who really cares about what animal welfare, particularly for our merino sheep, what exactly does non-mulesing mean? What is mulesing?
Yes, of course. So mulesing it's a practice that's done it's not all over the world, but for instance in Australia this happens. It's because of some of a fly that can get into the sheep, so they have to do this procedure. It's called mulesing, which I'm not going to get into too much detail in terms of what it means exactly, but it's considered non so animal welfare friendly for many. So what we do is as a general rule, it's non-mulesed wool. So when we source, for instance, from Australia, it has to be from non-mulesed wool. The good thing Australia has the most fantastic wool and it's really beautiful. So it means that the farmers that we work with in Australia, they have high standards of animal welfare anyway. So it's kind of the best of the best. So non-mulesed, but within that group, they want to, the wool to have high standards too. So that's a good thing within what we do of animal welfare, definitely.
That is amazing. We have to make sure that our sheep are all taken care of and living their best lives. I think when we spoke another time, you said that their farms are like living on a 5-star hotel, right? I think like
Yes.
that stuck in my head. I'm like, I want a life of merino sheep working with Nativa.
Well, because they have, many of the farms, at least when I was talking about Uruguay, where I come from, and for instance Argentina, you see that they have a lot of space, and if they're well taken care of, one of the farms here in Uruguay we visited last December, which is called La Magdalena, and you see them and you're like, yeah, I could be sheep. They're wonderful. They have a lot of space. They are well taken care of, and so it's definitely so we joke about the 5-star hotel.
So of everything that we've covered so far, because even in just 15 minutes we've covered quite a lot. Is there anything else important that you think we're missing? Actually, we just got a question. What advice do you have for new businesses or startups that want to practice and promote sustainability? Let's answer that question and then go back to
okay, that's a good one. Well, I used to be an entrepreneur many years ago, and I think my advice is that you have to, sustainability has to be embedded into your DNA. So rather than thinking business and what do I do to be sustainable, it's better to just kind of have it as part of what you do. So that can affect your sourcing. It can affect the way that you communicate with your clients. It can affect, I would say that when you look at it from, this is part of just who we are. So for instance, the way I source my fibers has to be sustainable. Then you're on the right track. Sometimes it's difficult. I'm not saying it's super easy. Sometimes it can be costly for a new business. But I think, and now that you were asking before if I have something to add, and we were talking about this in other situations, that nowadays the searches, for instance, for sustainable fashion are every time more and more important, especially for young people and young consumers. They want to know where their clothes are made, how their clothes are made and where it comes from. So that means that we are answering consumer demand, and many brands have to look at their own supply chain to say, okay, where do I source from and where, in terms of fiber, in terms of everything. So that means that we are born as a solution, kind of as almost like as a bottom-up approach. We're giving this solution so that we give you information about your own supply chain, and I think that's quite special. And the fact that the blockchain is a way to really show that transparency, because as you know, blockchain is very associated with cryptocurrency and with the traditional way we think of blockchain. But blockchain in the fashion industry is it's very good to have blockchain, because it shows that every single information is kind of encrypted, like locked into these blocks within the supply chain. So it means that a consumer that scans a code, so say I have a code in my Amédée scarf and I can scan it, this code is more than just a QR code. It actually shows the journey of the wool from farm up until my Amédée. So it's a really great, and the back information that comes from that is what's built into this blockchain, that sort of encrypted, locked-in information. So it's really transparent.
Yeah, that's exactly what ensures the transparency. And you had just actually mentioned scanning your Amédée scarf. So that's exactly what we already have had in place and have had in place since, Amédée was born. Right now, it's available on our signature square, which you're wearing, and available in a couple other colors where you scan it directly and you see exactly from sheep to shop, that entire line that we've been talking about, that entire process that we spoke about a little bit earlier. And by the end of 2020, on all of our Amédée products, no matter which one you get, will have that same encrypted blockchain journey that you can find and see exactly where your products are coming from, where they're being combed, where they're being spun, where they're being printed, exactly to right when they come on the customer's door. So it's definitely, I know Amédée, we're one of the only brands that already has that available, and it's such a core part of our brand DNA. It's like, without this Nativa wool sourcing for the quality of our products, because the wool is, I have very sensitive skin. I can't wear things around my neck. I can wear my one gold necklace that I've worn since I was had my first communion at age 7. and this is one of the only things I can wear. And it's so soft and it's so transparent and it's really great. So, now, absolutely. Anything else that we're missing that we haven't talked about, that we haven't covered?
No, I think, one of the things that you made me think of right now when you were talking about this soft tactile, I think, again, one of those things that happens when you think of wool before really knowing what we know now, like growing up, you thought of wool as something itchy, something completely different. And now we know that it has this amazing qualities. It's great for running, for doing outdoor sports. There's a lot of really great brands that we work with that are for instance, in the outdoor industry, that create this apparel that's fantastic for those type of sports. And, it has lots of qualities in terms of breathability that just makes it great, of course, for fashion, but it could be for many different uses. And I think that's, now that you mention it, in terms of good for the skin. So I think sometimes maybe the normal consumer doesn't know about this, and once you try it, that's what you want. I mean, like nice wool socks, or like a nice wool 100% merino, or even if it's not 100% just merino wool shirt. It's just fantastic. It's really great.
Yeah, it really is. It's great. I mean, full transparency, everyone in my family got Amédée products for Christmas. And also full transparency, half the people in my family have no clue what I do or what my brand is. So they're like, oh my God, is this cashmere? And I'm like, no, it's 100% merino wool. And right in front of everybody, in front of the Christmas tree, we go a full-on conversation about the properties of merino wool and why it's so soft. It was like a whole business pitch to my family at Christmas. It was great because they didn't believe that it was wool because it was so soft.
Yeah.
I also see that we have a question. I don't know if either of us will be able to answer it, but any suggestions on sanitizing wool from COVID? Our wool, I would say go to a dry cleaners. We said for all Amédée products, we say go to the dry cleaners, don't wash it at home. Do you know?
No, I think in terms of the, I don't have I'd rather not go into the technical aspect, but I think, I probably think that even now in COVID, it's just a great type of fiber to use. I mean, the other day I saw your live that was talking about how like wool as a face mask, and I think it's actually really great because it's breathable and it's good. So definitely now, even for COVID, I think it's a great fiber to use, definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely not. It definitely doesn't replace wearing a mask, but it does work if you don't have any other options. And I mean, I like wearing my scarf out as my face covering for that breathability purpose for the most part. Anything else that we should cover? Because I think we've covered a lot.
A lot is great, actually. I hope I didn't go through too fast through all the different things, but it's actually a good exercise to be able to think about all these things, and especially with you. And I've seen all your other lives, so it's been great, Vince. Thank you.
No, and thank you so much for joining us. It's so great to have this intercontinental conversation, seeing as the last lives that we did, one was right down the street from me, and she's on the live now. Hi, Bernice, right down the street. And with Tommaso, just, one country over in Biella. And now we have you coming in from Uruguay. And so it's really also, it's speaking to that global environment that we're trying to build with Nativa and with Amédée. So I think it was really great. So even though, so I'm going to go make dinner. I hope you've had lunch, given the time change. Thank you so much for joining us at Amédée. And for those of you who have come from the Amédée side, make sure you guys follow Nativa to learn more about what's going on with merino wool. And have a great rest of your day. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
My minimal Spanish. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.